You know what he say? That truth is stranger than fiction. In this case, what happened behind the scenes and to the producer and creator of this movie didn't end well. It was a horror movie in itself. So today we're going to talk about probably the cheapest blaxploitation horror movie of the 1970s, Blackenstein, also known as Black Frankenstein, on its theatrical release poster, and whose actual on-screen title is Blackenstein, the Black Frankenstein. Came out in 1973, directed by William A. Levy, and starring John Hart, Ivory Stone, Andrew King, Roosevelt Jackson, John Dessau, Nick Bolan, and Liz Rennie. It's loosely based on Mary Shelley's 1818 novel, Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. Now, released on August 3rd, 73, was made an attempt to cash in the success of Blackula a year before, which was released by EIP. However, Blackenstein fared poorly compared to his predecessor, with most reviews agreeing that the film was a totally inept mixture of the worst horror and blaxploitation films. However, $80,000 budget, $2 million box office. Again, written by Frank L. Saletri and produced by Saletri. Again, cinematography, Robert Carmicillo. Edited by William A. Levy. Music by Cardella Di Milo and Lou Froman and Walco Productions. Production company was Frisco Productions Limited. Distributed by Prestige. August 3rd, two versions, the 78-minute version and 87 video release. Again, a United States production. Now, this one, big and burly African-American soldier Eddie Turner, played by Dessau, stepped on a landmine while serving in Vietnam and lost both his arms and both legs. His physicist fiancée, Dr. Winifred Walker, played by Stone, thinks she has found help for him in a white former teacher and colleague, Dr. Stein, played by John Hart, who has recently won a Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for solving the DNA genetic code. Now, in a tour of Dr. Stein's castle-like LA home, Winifred is introduced to his other patients. The 90-year-old Eleanor looks to be only 50, played by King, thanks to Stein's treatments, and the bald Bruno, SCTV, played by Nick Bolan, whose lower legs have been successfully reattached via laser beam fusion and Stein's DNA solution. Winifred is startled when she sees one of Bruno's legs is tiger stripped, while Dr. Stein attributes to an unknown RNA problem, which he hopes to correct during the course of treatment. His sinister black assistant, Malcolm, played by Roosevelt Jackson, seems overly interested in her reaction to the sight and her in general. Meanwhile, the stoically suffering Eddie is being verbally abused by an obnoxious white orderly played by Bob Brophy at the local Veterans Hospital. When Dr. Stein and Walker arrived to ask if he would be interested in submitting to experimental limb transplant surgery that would correct his condition, he immediately consents. Of course, if he doesn't, there's no movie. Now, Dr. Stein gives Eddie new replacement arms using his DNA solution, and Eddie seems to be recovering well until Malcolm confesses his attraction to Winifred. Winifred tries to let him down gently, explaining that she intends to marry Eddie as soon as the surgeries are complete, and Malcolm seems to accept her statement, but he later vindictively sabotaged the DNA solution used during Eddie's leg surgeries with the contaminated RNA, causing the former soldier to start to devolve into a primitive, brutish state with hairy hands and a Neanderthal-like brow ridge. As his condition worsens and he loses the mental capacity for speech and rational thought, the stony-faced Eddie becomes a slow, shambling monster resembling an African-American version of the iconic Boris Karloff Frankenstein monster with a squarish afro instead of the usual scars and neck bolts. Okay. Although he lies in a near catatonic state by day, compelled by horrible cannibalistic urges, the black suit and turtleneck-clad Eddie secretly leaves the house late each night in search of victims who he dismembers, disembowels, and devours zombie style, always returning in time each morning for his ongoing schedule of DNA injections, with his doctors none the wiser. Evidently, body fluid must evaporate quick when he gets home. Now, two police detectives visit Dr. Stein as the body count starts to rise. There are suspicions aroused due to the fact that all the killings took place in the surrounding vicinity and that the abusive hospital orderly was eventually Eddie's first victim. But Stein is ignorant of the fact that there is now a murderous monster living in his basement laboratory. Now, so here it gets a little bit freaky and a little bit funky. Winifred, however, has become suspicious of Malcolm and spends her time in the lab, examining the various solutions used during Eddie's surgery. Now, one night, returning from the usual senseless rampage, Eddie hears screaming come from Winifred's room. He enters to find Malcolm at her bedside and interrupts the attempted rape. Malcolm grabs a gun and empties it into unaffected Eddie as Winifred flees. Eddie strangles Malcolm and then goes on to kill Bruno and Eleanor, the later aging rapidly as she dies. Dr. Stein meets Winifred on the stairs, where she tells him Eddie's the monster. Together, they run down to the lab. Now, Winifred busies herself preparing an injection of the DNA solution that she hopes will cure Eddie. When Eddie draws near, he seems moved by her terror and backs away, perhaps dimly remembering that she is his fiancée. Dr. Stein, however, attacks him from behind, provoking a violent response. After a brief tussle with his creator that ends with Stein being fatally knocked into the high-voltage electrical equipment, Eddie leaves the house. The police arrive too late to stop Eddie, but discover Dr. Stein's dead body and console Winifred. Now, Eddie then finds a brunette attempting to start a Jeep and spends several long minutes chasing her around in an empty industrial warehouse. The police call the LA County Canine Corps, and the Doberman pinchers surround Eddie, knock him to the ground, and with a fittingly macabre irony, viciously tear the monster to pieces in the same way he killed his victims. You ever think this is a tagged-on ending? Now, according to director William A. LeVay, non-actor Joe Dessous was cast in the title role because he was a client of criminal lawyer turned writer-producer Frank Saletre, as was celebrity cult icon Liz Rainey. Saletre also wrote, produced, and directed the never-released blaxploitation horror film Black the Ripper, and wrote the screenplays for two unmade Sherlock Holmes films. One was called Sherlock Holmes and the Adventures of the Werewolf in the Baskervilles, and Sherlock Holmes and the Adventures of the Golden Vampire, the later which was to star Alice Cooper as Dracula. In 1982, unfortunately, we heard of this story when it happened, Saletre was found murdered gangland style in his home, a mansion formerly owned by Bela Lugosi. What a coincidence, don't you think? Now, Blackenstein has appeared in numerous skits through the years, including Saturday Night Live. In a 2011 episode hosted by Jesse Eisenberg, the essential segment showed the movie Bride of Blackenstein, where Dr. Blackenstein, portrayed by Jerry Farrell, creates a bride, portrayed by Nicki Minaj, for Blackenstein's monster, portrayed by the ever-present Kenan Thompson. Unfortunately, became sassy because Igor, portrayed by Jesse Eisenberg, got the parts that caused this personality, like the brain of a female DMV employee who just died, the fingernails of a cashier at Walgreens, and the lips of the hoe who didn't know her place, as she described herself when Dr. Blackenstein felt offended at that answer at first. The Bride of Blackenstein wants Blackenstein's monster to take her out to dinner if she wants to become an official bride. When the angry mob attacks the castle, the Bride of Blackenstein talks off the mob leaders, portrayed by Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig. After the mob leaves, the Bride of Blackenstein claims the castle and states that her aunt is coming and needs room close to the bathroom due to her broken foot. Then she, Blackenstein's monster, and Dr. Blackenstein sing her theme song as Igor claps along. Sounds like it would make a really good movie, but here or there. Now, Blackenstein has also appeared on Mad TV, where he was redubbed Funkenstein. The movies were also referenced in the 2003 South Korean film Save the Green Planet. Now, Blackenstein is given a surprisingly serious scholarly examination as an aspect of a larger cultural perspective in Elizabeth Young's Black Frankenstein, the making of an American metaphor, published in 2009 as part of the American The Long 19th Century series from New York University Press. Now, on the Simpsons Season 9 episode Simpson Tide, 98, Homer Simpson is watching TV at home after getting fired yet again, when an announcer says, next on Exploitation Theater, Blackla, followed by Blackenstein and the Blunchback of L'Autre Blame. Evidently, we're seeing a joke here. Now, Blackenstein was one of the first releases on videos, came out in the late 70s by Media Home Entertainment, and again on VHS and DVD by Xenon Pictures in 2003. Several films released it on Blu-ray in 2017. Fully restored, it features two versions of the film, the theatrical release, which runs for 78 minutes, and a home video that adds up to 87. Again, not a classic, but you can't deny $80,000 made $2 million in the box office, but where the creator and person say he was shot for a reason, you can figure it out. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, that's our latest in our vintage horror podcast.